All right, and we are back. We're going to review the Unit 2 review, a little practice test that reviews, I think, the last three lessons that we did. There was some material on text structures in here, on point of view, and then on paired passages and the difference that point of view can make in informational passages. So let's dive into the answers. Okay, so number one, long question here, but which of these best describes the structure that is used in the paragraph, two paragraphs, and it is C. The paragraphs present the problem of trampling elephants and the solution of beehive fences. So we're dealing with text structures here, problem, solution, text structure. And I think the point that I made in that lesson is that, the whole of a passage can have a structure, but then paragraphs or, sections within that passage could have their own structure. So we could actually have them nested within each other, so to speak. Okay, question two. Which of these best explains why the author uses the phrase in contrast? And of course, in contrast means the differences. And of course, it is D. The author wants to show how the area covered by the Nile differs from, contrasts from, that covered by the Amazon. Okay, back up to question three. Which of these is most likely the author's reason for writing the world's two longest rivers? Think about main idea, what the writer's trying to get across, and that leads us to purpose. And it's A. The author wants to show the ways that the two rivers are alike and different. And of course, the comparison text structure there could also lead you to the author's purpose. The author chooses the text structure based on their purpose. So it's, we can kind of view it the opposite way, reverse engineer it, so to speak. Look at the structure to determine the purpose. All right, question four. Which of these best explains the difference in structure between the two paragraphs? What we had here is a paragraph from passage one and then another one from passage two. So they were from different articles or passages. So we needed the accurate description of what each is in their difference, and it's D. First paragraph describes the problem of elephants destroying crops, while the second paragraph compares a map of Africa to a map of South America. So in both, we're analyzing text structure. Okay, with the to sink or swim literary text, we've moved on to a different skill. We're looking at point of view in literary text. And number five, it's C, a limited third-person narrator. You might have been tempted to choose Javier because it certainly contains his perspective and thoughts, but we do have a third-person narrator. It's limited. We only have Javier's thoughts. We don't have Jessica or Erica's thoughts or anybody else. So third, limited. 16, here we've got some figurative language. His mouth felt like it was stuffed with cotton, but we also have to think about what's going on in the story. And at C, he felt like he couldn't talk because he was nervous to be taking swimming lessons at his age. All right, question 7, more figurative language here, wooden face. Obviously Javier's face is not made out of wood, but we got to figure out what the author means, and it's B, his face showed no expression. Works with the context of the story, him being nervous and not wanting to let on how he was feeling. Okay, 8, what might the reader learn if Erica were telling the story? Well, in a basic sense, A, we would learn what Erica is thinking. We would know her feelings on the situation. Okay, and then our last set of passages, two more, another pair. This time we're looking at the differences in point of view, but also kind of the opinion or perspective that an author takes, that is rooted in point of view on these. And so we had two passages on mandatory voting. Should voting be mandatory? In other words, forced. Everybody has to do it, or you're breaking the law, or should it be optional, voluntary? First passage was in favor of mandatory or forced voting. The second passage was not. So number 9, read the sentence from Vote or Else. This was the pro-mandatory voting. And so in the context, the word mandatory means A, required. You don't have the choice. 10, which of these best states the author's view about voting in Vote or Else? And it's C, no. A, everyone should be forced to vote. That's the core argument, honestly, is that everybody has to vote who's of legal age. Okay, 11, which sentence from Vote or Else best supports the inference? Remember, inference is a conclusion drawn from these details, that this is a first-hand account. And it's C, as an election official in a small town, I've seen the problems that arise. So yeah, first-hand account. We kind of had to infer that that his work involved, motivating people to vote, or seeing the consequences of people not voting. Maybe not a whole lot of inference there, but some. But that does make it a first-hand account. Maybe it's not as credible as the second passage, or maybe it is. That's for you to decide. 12, which of these best states the author's view about voting in Find Another Way? That should be a clue that is anti-mandatory voting. It is A, that voting should be a choice, and segues nicely into question 13, because coercing someone is trying to take their choice away. But in the full context here, it means B, threat. No fines or threats should push them into the voting booth on election day. Both things being negative. And coercion is a kind of threat. Do this or else, which is a threat. All right, that concludes our review of this short Unit 2 review. The next and actually final unit that we'll be looking at in this text is about interpreting visual information, charts, graphs, in-text, things of that nature. Pictures, drawings, all sorts of visual information, and how to interpret that correctly for the test. Okay, I'll see you next time in Strategy 10.